Colleen was an athlete, and after some injury, really had to kind of like redefine yourself a little bit here. So we had some questions as well. And does anyone? I think Amy had a question, didn't she? So she's going to head up and to our microphone, and she's going to ask the first question.
Colleen, this one is for you. Is my mic on? Yep. Oh, great. Okay. So how did you start to get yourself healthy and lose weight by breaking the stereotype?
Great question, Amy. No, it really is a great question because it took me a while to figure this one out because I was such an athlete in college, my whole life up to college, did the athlete thing, did the workout thing, got injured, and then had to figure out what in the world type of person I was. Because I'm injured, can't do the same things I was doing, let myself go. I think, it just happens, And then all of a sudden I couldn't go right back to what I was doing, what I had been used to for like 22, 23 years. So I honestly had to look at myself and be like, all right, Colleen, here's the deal. You can't go out and run as much as you used to run when it was basketball shape time. So why don't you just go out and walk for a minute? Go out and run for 5 minutes. Start somewhere. Just because kind of like the stereotype is to go out and run for 30 minutes or for 25 minutes didn't mean I had to do that. All that I needed to do was start somewhere, even if it wasn't the stereotypical 25-minute run.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really love about you is you're really redefining kind of, or maybe even allowing yourself and allowing other people to write their own rules and do what's comfortable for them versus kind of, what we think we need to do.
I like that. Write their own rules. I'm stealing that. I'm going to take that.
Perfect.
It's true. It's true because I think we're all unique, diverse individuals. And if we try to cater who we are to the stereotype of everyone else, we're not ultimately going to be successful for ourselves. But if we break the rules and say, you know what? I'm diverse, I'm amazing, let me figure out what works best for me, we can actually start to accomplish something.
Great, awesome. And it looks like we have some more questions from the audience, so I'll go ahead and have the next person come up to ask their question. Look, they're fighting for the first spot. This is how amazing this is.
All right, so I'm going to throw Tracy for a loop here, and I'm going to ask her a question about swimming. And as someone going into triathlon, why is it important, or is it not, to swim more strokes than just freestyle?
Oh, that is a great question, and I know that Liz is a swim coach herself.
That's why
so
I
love
it.
that she asked that. That is a perfect question, Liz. So as triathletes, a lot of times we just do freestyle. I mean, it's the crawl. Some people call it the front crawl or freestyle. And it's very common that most triathletes just know how to do freestyle. But the great thing about it is if you learn how to do backstroke or breaststroke, number one, during your training, it's going to help you use different muscles, right? And you're going to learn different strokes. And I think that a lot of triathletes could benefit highly from learning how to do breaststroke because breaststroke in triathlon can help you sight better.
That's very interesting. First, you have to get me in the water, period. But
oh, you're getting in the water, man.
I know. We're working on it for this year, right? Tracy and I got something planned. All right, so it looks like we have time for one more question from the audience before I bring it back for my last question for Stephanie. Oh, of course the panelists can ask questions. Go ahead.
So I am a non-swimmer. So I have avoided triathlons like the plague. What would it take to get a non-swimmer adult? And all of the things like kids in pool are like fish, but what would it truly take for me to be able to develop the skills that it would take to not be competitive, but at least finish one?
All right, well, first of all, even just finishing is competing in my role, right? And we'll talk actually in our second panelist about Anna, who I think had finished last in one of her triathlons and couldn't be prouder of her for it. But go ahead.
Okay, so if you ask the majority of triathletes what their weakest sport in triathlon is, what their weakest of the three sports is, they will almost always say swimming. And so when you have an adult swimmer that's never swam before or they're wanting to learn how to swim, it's all based on the individual, because some people have a fear of putting their face in the water, and that can cause a problem. But other than that, that's typically the only thing that I see that with adult learn to swim swimmers would be a problem. A lot of it is about just getting comfortable in the water, and if you can't get comfortable, it's going to make it more difficult. I had an adult swimmer last summer who could never put his face in the water. He can swim with his head above the water all day long. He was really good at it. He was a century bike rider. He was a marathon runner. But he could not put his face in the water. I got him to go halfway across the pool with his face in the water, and then there was a break, and that's a very real thing. People have emotional things that they can't quite get past when it comes to swimming sometimes, and it's very real. But if people can get past those emotional barriers and those what's the word I'm looking for? Just having those
fears?
Emotional the fears, yeah. Once they get past those fears, then they can do it. And a lot of swimming's very, very different from biking and running. People think that they can if they go from one end of the pool to the other, they're like breathing heavy and they're like, I can't do it. But it's all about the training.
Awesome. And actually, I love that you just mentioned that, because we have an episode of HCTV that's coming up where Tracy was my guest, and she was talking about the power of positive thinking as an athlete. And so I really appreciate that, Greg, you asked that question and that you were able to answer that as well. So, Stephanie, I think I'm sorry. I think, do we have one more question from the audience? Okay, fabulous. So let's go ahead and get your question.
So how do you keep yourself entertained on long runs without technology? Because we know a lot of the races, you're not allowed to run with headsets, Ragnar, all the army races, just for safety. So going out for 3-4 hours at a time, and especially talking about the mental, a lot of times kind of the music downs down all these crazy thoughts. So without that, like, how do you keep going?
That's awesome. And I'm definitely going to give this one over to Stephanie, because our episode really dealt with mental health and how to really get into kind of your own mind versus kind of using other distractions. So can you go ahead and answer that?
Sure. So for me, I am definitely a technology-free runner in general. The most that I'll have on me, I do carry a cell phone for safety reasons, because I'm generally by myself and I'm awful with directions, so I never know where I am. If I'm not on the WOD trail, I might as well be in the middle of the desert. I have no idea. So for me, running, I didn't get into it because I'm an athlete. I don't have the body type of an athlete. I don't have the drive of an athlete. But I grew up around running. My father is a big runner. And I grew up in a house where we don't really talk about things. We just execute. So when I came to a crossroads in my life and I needed to figure some things out, the first thought I had was like, just get out there. Just
go do it.
Yeah, you can't figure out your mind, figure out your body. So get out and run. So technology never really crossed my mind. So the way that I entertain myself is that's my therapy. I'm just like having conversations with myself. I try to be really present. I try to look and see, what colors do I notice? What am I passing that I don't see in my regular life? I started a small business 4 years ago. I oftentimes forget to eat or, bathe regularly. No, I'm just kidding. I do that. But so it's really my time to connect with everything that's important and grounds me. So I really do pay attention to like the sounds of the cars. I look for animals. I listen to the sounds. I run a lot at night, mostly for scheduling reasons, but also because I just personally feel a big connection with the moon and things like that. So I'm constantly trying to see what's around me and let that be my entertainment, so to speak. But it is hard. When I first started, I got about 2 minutes and I thought I was going to die. But when I did my first, yeah.
I love that though, because I think like those are the things that we normally don't talk about, right? We're like, oh, well, now I do this, now I do that. And it's really nice when we can say like, yeah, I got out there and after 2 minutes for you, 30 seconds for me.
Yeah,
and I was like winded. I was like, where's the nearest cocktail?
But it is hard. I remember my very first 10-mile run. I was super amped up to do it. I was very pumped. I went out there. And it was on the W&O Trail, and I got to the mile marker 5 turnaround point. And I sat down and I just cried. I couldn't do it. I was like, oh my gosh, I have another hour with myself to get home. Like nobody's coming to pick me up. But that's what I love about it, is I have to get through that mental break and force myself. And for me, technology is a crutch. If I have a song motivating me, I'm not growing, I'm not learning. So it's all about building the mental endurance as well as the physical endurance.
I love that you said like growing and learning. I think that's so important, and I'm gonna have to remember that next time I try and leave my earphones home, earbuds home. And Stephanie, if people want to kind of connect with you and learn a little bit more, and kind of get in touch with you or Eye of the Heart, which does amazing work for our community. How does that happen? How can they do that?
You can find us on the internet. We're at eothrize.com. We also have a Facebook page, which is just EOTH. EOTH. Shoot us a message, just like Rachel, or at any of our events around town. We're always somewhere in Herndon doing something.
You really are. You're everywhere. I don't know. It's exhausting just watching them. And people think I do a lot. All right. And then I was so excited to hear what Colleen had to say. I did not ask you that question. So if we can hand the mic down to Colleen. Colleen has a podcast as well, and it is Finding the Fantastic. And how can people listen to that? And what do you got going on?
All the socials. So, except for Twitter, I don't tweet. I have learning disabilities, so I don't like to type. But any podcast app, Spotify, if you guys got Spotify, or if you got an Apple phone, all on that. And, the big thing is it's just all about finding your fantastic. And if anybody wants to be featured on it, I'm totally open to that, because I think people should try to find ways to express themselves.
Awesome. All right. Well, can I just get can I just get a moment to talk about Tracy one more time?
Oh, okay.
Apparently I skipped that as well. All right, Tracy.
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook at NoVA Sports Coach, or on my website, novasportscoach.com, and I'm on Instagram as well as my coffee Instagram, which is DMV Coffee Junkie. You got to check that out too. And if you're here at the live event, I've got some flyers back in the back that have, if you want more information about how to swim better.
Awesome. And I think we're going to have the Coffee Junkie do a tea post for Eldon Street Tea Shop, too. Oh, fabulous. See? She's already done it. Well, if I can just get a really great big round of applause for our first set of panelists. This has been awesome so far. We are going to take a brief break, and while we do, we're going to get our second set of panelists up here. That's going to include Kelly Roth, Anna Gibson, Ann Mader, Liz Badley, and Naomi Warner, and last but not least, Tracy and Hannah Waller. While we're doing that, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And while we're doing that, we are going to go ahead and apparently take a picture before we get going, so that's going to happen. But we are going to be switching over in a moment. Just take it while I'm talking, because, this is what happens when it's live. So in addition to that, we are going to get ready to do our raffle. And in order for me to do this raffle, I'm going to need somebody to hold my mic for me while I change really quick into my other shirt, which is the Washington Spirit shirt. All right, we can hold that. That's right. Yes, you're in the green room right now. I love that. Exactly. Let's get this on. Oh, we are still Facebook Live.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Oh. All right, and they're still, and we're actually, we don't stop recording. We just keep going. Yeah. Facebook Live, all of it's happening right now. Are my panelists for round 2 ready to come up on stage? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, of course, grab a drink if you need to.
For this next one, if you can do the intro into...
You got it, absolutely. All right. It does not matter. Yeah. I think I know who each of you are, so you should be okay. Everyone is just while everyone is grabbing their drink to come up, we are going to pull the first one. You know what I love that there's like one person that can be as loud as me, and I can hear her all the way from the kitchen right now, which makes me so happy. Nope, wherever you want to be. All right, so while we're doing that, would anyone like to come up and pick the winner for me? Anyone? All right.